Hey guys, thank you for visiting my channel. You may have seen my most recent video on how to get over a heartbreak when the person was a good person. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how, I think I mentioned it in that video, how getting through a heartbreak can sometimes feel like a death. And I've seen a lot of people say that, so I know a lot of people feel this way. So I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit in this video. And I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I am somebody who has experienced a lot of death in my life, and I've experienced heartbreak. And I can definitely say that I do agree with that it does definitely feel like a loss. It's two different type of losses, but it is definitely a mourning process that you have to go through when you go through a heartbreak, because you're mourning the loss of the relationship. You're mourning the loss of that person if you guys aren't talking anymore. You're mourning the loss of the future that you thought you had, right? And of course, we know, again, it's two different losses. Now, let me just say this because I want to give you guys an understanding that I have experienced a lot of death in my life. So what I'm saying, I don't say it lightly, and I don't say it out of theory. I say it from experience. So I lost my mother when I was 10. And then 6 months later, when I was 11, my big brother got killed. When I was in 11th grade, I was 16. Both of my grandfathers died that year. My father's father, he died at the beginning of my 11th grade year in a house fire. My mother's father, he died at the end of the year. And fast forward, the woman who raised me when my mother died, my Aunt Trisha, which is my mother's sister, she died when I was 27. And losing her was like going through losing my mother all over again, because she was like my mother. She didn't have any kids, so I was her only child. And, you know, I actually had her longer than I had my mother. That's a whole nother story. But fast forward to 2021, I lost my father August 2021. The day before my father's funeral, I found out my oldest brother had died. A month after that, stepfather died in a crash. And then my cousin died a month after that from COVID. Her kid's father, which is also like a cousin of us, he actually committed suicide. And that's not even included all of the deaths that I've experienced. My nephews, cousins, and things like that. I share all this to say that I have experienced some losses in my life, and I've experienced some heartbreak. And I can honestly say that I could understand why people say that it's very similar. And I've heard somebody say that they feel like it was worse. Now, I could see how they could feel like it's worse in that moment, because of the fact that with heartbreak, with breakups, ego is involved, and people don't realize that when they really explore why they're so hurt in breakups and heartbreak, a lot of it has to do with ego. A lot of it has to do with, you know, I can't believe that person did this to me. A lot of it has to do with some people even thinking, who do they think they are? So when you really explore, when you become self-aware and you really explore, why do I feel the way I feel? A lot of it has to do with ego, and it makes it hurt even worse. And it takes, you know, it makes you have a hit to your self-esteem, to your confidence, and all of that, and who you are as a person. So that is one of the reasons why heartbreaks hurt so bad. And you don't have the ego attached to when you lose somebody to death, because what could you do about that? You couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't help it. You know, depending on how they died, right? So it's like, you know, you have no choice but to let them go when it's a death. And so because the ego is so attached when it comes to heartbreak and breakup, that's what makes it more intense. And I think that's why I could see how some people could feel like it hurt worse. Now, and of course, the bright side to that type of heartbreak, to that type of loss when it comes to heartbreak, is that eventually you're going to get over it, right? Eventually you're going to get over that person. But when you lose somebody to death, that is a lifelong process. You know, like I said, I was 10 when my mother died, and I still miss her. I'm 37 now, and I still miss her. I still have moments where I think about her, and I can remember how she smelled, how she sound, everything. And I think about that. She never got to see my baby. I was still a kid myself, you know, when she died. And I think about how things would be if she was still here. And even my Aunt Trisha, she was my mom. She was my child's grandmother. So that's what my baby knew as a grandmother. And so when she passed, we lost my baby. Now, I not only lost her, my baby lost her too. So it's like, it's a lifelong thing, you know? And so definitely two different types of loss, but I could definitely understand how somebody could feel that is more intense in the moment. And again, it's because the ego that's attached to it that many people don't realize. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Definitely, You have to go through a process of grief when you're going through a breakup, because you are mourning the loss of the things that I mentioned, the future, the past, what you wanted, you know, what you thought you had, that person, if you guys no longer talk. And so it is hard. It is really hard, you know. And I want to know your thoughts. I want to know if you guys have experienced, you know, a very painful breakup that you could maybe say was very relatable to a death. Do you think it's worse? Do you think it's no comparison? Like, I just want to know your experience and your thoughts on that. Thank you again for visiting my channel. Be blessed.